Welcome to Garage Noise. Chris here, and this video is all about helping you find the right paint gun if you have a small compressor. I've been getting a lot of questions about budget paint guns and small compressors. One of the biggest struggles for a hobbyist or a DIYer when they're trying to paint their vehicle is they have limitations on the amount of air they have. Large compressors that produce enough air to run a standard style paint gun sometimes are very expensive, thousands of dollars. So being able to paint with a smaller compressor, something that's much more affordable, is very desirable. And in the past, there hasn't been a lot of options because conventional paint guns use about 10 to 13 CFMs of air. So for that, you need a larger compressor. I really wanted to help out my audience find a paint gun that can be used with a small compressor so you don't have any fluctuation in air and you can produce a beautiful looking finish. So for the last 6 months, I've been using a couple different guns. I've been using the LT100 and the Spray It 33,000. This gun can also be known as the R500. These guns are all basically the same gun rebranded. Now, Eastwood has rebranded it and changed up a few things, but it's the same gun. It sprays the same. Spray It 33,000 and R500, they're the exact same gun. These guns use significantly less air pressure than a standard paint gun. They use 3.5 CFMs of air, which can be used with a smaller compressor like a 25 or 20 gallon compressor. Anything that produces over 4 CFMs of air can be used with these guns and not have any fluctuation in air pressure. A lot of times I've painted with a compressor that was undersized and my air pressure fluctuated, and it really makes it hard to lay down a beautiful flat clear coat finish. So it makes a big difference having the right gun and the right amount of air. And when you're painting a car, there's a million things that can go wrong, and you don't want to have to struggle with air pressure. Having a paint gun that's starved for air and fluctuating in air pressure is going to make it much more difficult to get a beautiful looking finish. The prices on these guns are all over the board. Now, Eastwood sells the LT100 for around $100, right around $100. Spray It 33,000. They sell this gun. They've moved up their price to $100 as well. But I found the same gun under the R500 brand for $60. And I've even seen this gun as low as $40 on Walmart. But I have links to this gun down in the description if it's something you're interested in on Amazon for around $60. But let's put this gun to the test. Let me show you how it performs, laying down some base coat and laying down a beautiful looking clear coat finish. I think you're going to be impressed. I know that I've been amazed with how well this gun performs using such little air. Today I'm painting this Dodge truck with the Spray It 33,000. We'll be using this gun for base and clear coat. Now this truck, previously we did a video on how to mask with this truck, so you can check out that video. I'll leave a link at the end or in the description. The paint I'll be using today is the Nason XL. I do find this paint to be cost effective and it has good coverage, and I purchased this paint at my local O'Reilly's. For the gun settings on the Spray It 33,000, the top knob is for the fan pattern. We're going to open that wide open. Now the next knob is the volume. That's the amount of paint that comes out of the gun. We're going to turn that 3 turns out from closed. As far as the air pressure for the base color, we're going to run it around 15 to 20 PSI. Before I start spraying, I've washed this with isopropyl alcohol, and now we want to tack it off just before we start spraying. Now I like to use my gun to put a little air on it, so if there's any dust and it doesn't stick to the tack rag, it'll blow off the vehicle. So we're also going to wipe down the paper, make sure it's nice and clean before we start laying our base. I start off by doing a test spray on the paper, make sure my pattern's even and nice and uniform and the gun is clean. Then we'll lay down our first coat of base over the primered area. So this gun has a pretty good size fan pattern. It's about 10 inches. It's not the widest fan pattern out there, but you don't necessarily need it. Now, one thing about this gun is it is a little bit slower than a high dollar gun like an Iwata or a DeVilbiss or a SATA. This doesn't matter as much when you're spraying base coat, but if you like to spray your clear coat really quickly, you're going to just keep that in mind. You're going to have to slow down just a bit. The one benefit of using this gun with a low CFM and low air pressure is that you're not going to have as much overspray, and you're going to find that the transfer efficiency of paint to the panel is going to be much better with this particular gun. That's going to result in some additional savings in paint and clear coat. So after putting the first coat over the primered areas, we're going to let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes, let that flash off. This is going to help you with your coverage. If you let it flash off, you're going to get better coverage in the end. I'll go ahead and finish up the base coat on this. We'll put 3 coats of base on this. We're overlapping 70 to 80% on our passes, and we're going to let it flash off 10 to 15 minutes in between coats. Then I want to introduce you to a great budget clear coat I've been testing that I'm really digging. It performs really well, and we'll see how this gun performs when laying down clear coat. This is the clear coat I'll be using today. It's the Upol 2892. It's a spot panel clear with a fast hardener. Now this is part of the System 20 series. They offer a 2K primer and a clear coat and some other things, but I've used the primer and the clear coat and I really do like them, and they're budget friendly. This kit costs around $100, right around $100, which is a very good value. This clear will mix up 4 to 1. That's 4 parts clear coat, 1 part hardener. There's a few things I'm looking for when I'm evaluating a clear coat, and one of those things is the cost. I want it to be between $100 and $160. This kit right here runs right at $100. I'm also taking into account the sprayability of the clear coat. Does it flow out nicely and give you a nice flat finish? I find that this clear is really easy to use. It flows out nicely. You can get a nice flat finish without having to be concerned about it running really easily. Now when I'm setting up the gun for clear coat, we're going to have the fan pattern wide open. We're still going to have 3 turns out on the volume, but we're going to turn up the air pressure a little bit to 30 psi. Now remember, this gun is creating 30 psi at the gun while only consuming 3.5 CFMs from your air compressor. We're going to put 2 coats of clear on these panels. The first coat is going to be a medium to wet coat. We're going to get good coverage. We just want to introduce that clear coat to the painted surface. It's not necessary to get a perfect finish on your first coat of clear. You're going to want to overlap your passes 70 to 80%. You want to have a consistent distance from the panel. That's going to be about 6 inches away. And it's a good idea to spray with a consistent speed as well. Another thing I'm looking for with a clear coat is how does it cut and buff? Because if you're spraying at home without a paint booth, you're going to get some dust in your paint job and you're going to need to cut and buff that out. So I want to know, does it sand easily? I sand with 2,000 grit, and then I move up to 3,000 and then 5,000 and then buff it. You also want to know that, does it buff easily? Can you get those fine scratches out of it without fighting the clear coat? I've been using this clear coat for a few months now and I've had no issues with cutting or polishing out those fine scratches and getting the finish to look beautiful. Another thing I'm looking for is how well does the clear coat hold its gloss, and the best way to tell that is to spray it and then come back the next day, and if it's died back a little bit or lost a little bit of gloss, that's something I'm looking at, and I find that this clear coat holds its gloss very well. I haven't had any issues with dieback with this Upol clear. After I finish with this first coat, we're going to let it flash off for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to lay a second coat on. I'm going to go a little bit slower, put a little bit more material on that panel, let it flow out a little bit better so we have a nice flat finish, and then we'll take a look at how well this budget clear and budget paint gun performed. This gun and clear combination produced a beautiful looking finish. Just the right amount of texture. There's a little bit of dust in it. We'll cut and buff this out and it'll be ready to deliver. If you want to check out some more how-to videos on how to repair your vehicle or restoration project, check out one of these videos now. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time on Garage Noise.